Hello, everyone. I've got a special guest on the podcast today. Her name is Jordan Wentz. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Pauline. So happy to be here.
Yeah, such a pleasure to have you on. And I know that you've got quite the story as well, so we can get into all of that today. But first of all, please introduce yourself to everyone and what do you do?
I would love to. Hi, everybody. I am America's hype woman, Jordan Wentz. I help people get out of their way, unleash their confidence, and really just live their fullest, most badass lives. And I do this all through epic dance parties, mixing movement with mindset. And a little bit of background about me is that I'm actually a professional dancer. I'm a fitness expert. I work a lot with movement therapy. And I have 20 years of performance and mindset experience. And I've been using that to help people ditch their self-limiting beliefs and just find the confidence to really live their freest lives. And I've toured internationally as a choreographer, as a dancer, as a film actress. And I started actually coaching people on the tips and tricks that helped me overcome what was once my debilitating low self-image and self-limiting beliefs and low self-confidence. And so I founded My Movementality, which is a platform for total health and wellness through movement and mindset, where I now help thousands of people transform their inhibitions to shine their brightest and live their fullest lives.
Wow, that is so impactful, the amount of work that you've done and the amount of experience that you've had within your life up until this point.
Thank you.
I would love to ask America's hype woman, the story, like, where did this all start? Where did this ambition to be able to like show up and do all the things that you do? Tell us about that.
So I've always been a hype woman. I've just always found myself really finding joy in encouraging other people and in lifting them up and being their little cheerleader. And it's just something that I inherently started doing. And I found that the more and more I did it, the more and more right it felt, and the more in alignment with me. And I realized I have the capacity to, who doesn't want to hype people up? Who doesn't want to tell somebody that they're awesome and that they've got this and they can do this, that they can do anything that they set their mind to? It's so nice to have somebody like that. And I get a lot of people who see all of my silly, crazy, fun content on social media, and they're like, I just love seeing what you do. I'm like excited to look at your page every day because there's always something new. There's always something fun. And I just love to make it a big party, because I realize that life is too short to not enjoy what you're doing. And so for me, I think the journey to really finding my inner hype woman, it probably actually begins with my inner clown. And I noticed at a young age, I was a very, very shy child. I was, as my mom says, painfully shy. And something happened, and I started dance when I was 7. So I was in this social setting like that. But if I didn't know you, game over. I was really, really shy, really timid. And dance sort of allowed me this opportunity to start performing on stage in front of people. And that was something that was special. And to me, it felt like when I stepped on stage, the shyness went away. That aspect of me just kind of melted away. And it was really nice. It was a place I could feel like home. And then I started noticing, probably at about age 10, that I was just hilarious. And all of the older girls, everybody danced, just thought that I was the funniest thing. And I found myself in this position where I was very often doing things to make people laugh, not necessarily putting myself down or anything like that, but I just enjoyed saying funny things and being funny and acting goofy and making other people laugh. And I realized at a very young age the value of that, and the value of remaining connected to play and to your inner child and that silliness and that inner clown. And that was really my first experience with the clown archetype. And I, of course, grew up. I've had actually a lot of training and experience in clowning. So I consider myself a professional clown as well, which a lot of people, that may blow your mind. But clowning and performance goes very, very hand in hand. And the other thing about clowning that is really unique is that it is such a profound archetype The clown is someone who is always making light of any situation, making light, but really not necessarily always making light, but really diving deep and looking for the nuances and the fun and the play and the good side, the silver lining of every single situation, regardless of what it is. And I think that there's an important lesson in that for us to continue to find the light in everything that we're doing, to find the joy in every single thing that we do, in every single situation and everything that we experience, and to also not take ourselves too seriously, because that's something that we get caught up in sometimes. We get in the grind, we get in the work mode, and we take ourselves very seriously sometimes. So I'm all about that comedic relief. I'm all about cartwheel breaks and dance breaks and anything to really just kind of just break that up. And I love that. I really specialize in that. And I have a story that I love to tell. I'll just touch on it really quickly. Of what hyping can do for you. So I had a client who came to me and wanted to live out, he had this opportunity to actually live out his lifelong dream of dancing on stage with his super fan, or he was a super fan of this particular celebrity. And he had this opportunity to get on stage and dance with her. And he was the epitome of, I do not dance. I'm terrified of dancing. I'm the worst dancer you've ever seen. I heard all of the things out of his mouth. And I worked with him, and I continued to work with him, not only with movement, but with mindset, and telling him, buddy, you've got this. You can do this. Look at you. Like, I want you to think back of where you started and where you are now. And look at this. How many steps have you learned today? Look at your progress, and little things like that. And at the end of this, he was actually able to step on stage, not only step on stage, but get on stage and dance, something that he would have never before done, with his idol on stage, opening night in Vegas in front of thousands of people, which is absolutely remarkable. And he wrote to me afterwards and he said, I'm so thankful to you, because I couldn't have done it without your support and your encouragement. And it was just such an reaffirming example of why I do what I do and how important it is. And yet another example of just how pivotal and crucial dance and movement with mindset can be to transform anybody's life, not just somebody who wants to be a professional dancer. But out of that experience, for this same client, he quit his job that he was miserable in. He quit his job and he applied for the job of his dreams and he got it. And again, I heard from him and he said, thank you. Thank you for encouraging me to do this. You gave me the strength. Like, I literally could not have done this without my newfound confidence. And so it's really special to see the power that dance and movement and mindset have. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily think of movement as being something that could be the catalyst for such profound change. And I'm here to tell you that it is. And I highly recommend that everybody try it. I mean, it's whether you're looking for just a simple shift in your mood. That's why I encourage dance breaks. I invite you to, if you're ever wanting to throw your computer at the wall or wanting to yell at your coworker, take a break, go sit in your car, take 5, put on your favorite hype jam and have a little dance party in the car with yourself. And things will change for you. It really will. So I'm a big advocate of movement mindset and using that to transform. And I've found that throughout the process, I'm a really great hype woman and I love it. I love being everybody's personal cheerleader. So come hang out with me on social media and all the things and I will hype you up.
Yeah, absolutely. Jordan, as I'm sitting here, I'm even feeling hyped up. So let me tell you guys that anyone's listening, the energy is there. It's expressed within your body and your voice and everything that you're saying. So it's such a transformative experience, for people to really get out of their minds and into their bodies. And I think when the two actually connect, that's when, the magic happens. That's when the transformation happens. It's very powerful.
Absolutely.
And so one of the things that I really want to ask you is, you mentioned about being that inner clown. And now that you've become that professional clown, I want to ask you about, I guess, play, fun, like those kind of things, you know. Dance, when I think about dance parties, like I used to love going to them when we were all allowed to go before.
Yeah.
And yeah, there is a certain vibe, there's a certain energy that really like helps with our connection. That's why a lot of people like, you know, having a lot of people around and that
Yeah.
energy, music. However, there is a sense of forgetfulness when we actually start to grow up, we move through life. Like there's plenty of dancers or performers out there where I'm sure, even for myself before, where you get to a stage where it does become competitive. It does become about the work, about the performance, about the result, about the people pleasing, and all of these things. And then it starts to get quite serious. Like we can get quite involved with that. We start to
Yeah.
lose our sense of clown. Was there
Yes.
ever a time in your experience where you did fall into the seriousness of all of this?
I did. I feel like the clown archetype has always been there for me, but I do remember at actually a couple times in my life where I feel like felt really deep and dark. I felt like I'd lost my sense of where I was going. I felt kind of like a shell of myself. I was just going through the motions and my heart was not in what I was doing. And it was actually through dance that I was able to pull myself out of those moments. And there's one in particular where I just put on a song that I was even feeling very disconnected from dance and movement at this time in my life. It was just a kind of a low point. I was just feeling, I guess, very depressed and very off and just not in alignment with myself or who I was, and just felt very estranged from myself and my art and my craft and my joy and my creativity and all of those things. And so this one particular night, I just put on a song that actually, I think it was a playlist that I felt like was in alignment with how I was feeling. I'm very big on that. I like to use music to transform my mood. So if I'm feeling very slow and sluggish, I'll put on a hype song that's going to make me want to like get up out of my chair. But sometimes I like my music to be a direct reflection of where I'm at, because it allows me to really open up and express myself. And sometimes that, very often actually, that music, I'm able to connect with that music in a way that I wasn't able to connect with myself. And therefore, I'm able to open up, and through movement, I'm able to really embody my emotions and process a lot of things. So, this particular event that I'm talking about, I put on this playlist and it was in alignment with the way I was feeling, very, very off, very awful, very lost. And that was the music that I was dancing to. And I was able to just cry. I just was sobbing and I was just dancing it out. And I wasn't necessarily thinking about what I was doing as far as dance. I was just moving. I was just letting the music move me and letting whatever needed to come out. And it was really powerful, and it was such a profound experience, and it was really deeply healing for me. And after that experience, I felt like I had just shed layers. I had shed layers of just shit that had just
Yeah.
been hanging on to me for a long time. And it was so great. And that was actually when I sort of reintroduced dance and movement more so into my life, and in a different way, in a way that I realized was much more transformative. And so that's when I really began to use it to help me more. And also I was like, this is profound. I can help people more than just teaching people 5, 6, 7, 8 and how to do a kickball change and all of those things. I can really help people transcend where they're at through movement. And it was a big aha moment for me. Very
What's the
big.
difference? Yeah, that's really profound. What is the difference with movement versus exercise, in your opinion?
Well, I feel like movement is exercise, and I'm always encouraging people who are wanting to exercise, feeling like they should exercise but not excited about it. I always encourage them to do movement, to dance. Okay? And because when you're dancing, you're getting exercise, but you forget that you're getting exercise. You forget that you're getting a workout. You're doing some serious cardio. And depending on the kind of dancing that you're doing, I do a lot of floor work. Sometimes I'll put on a song and I'll do everything on the floor. So I'm rolling around and I'm going through all of these body positions that are very much dependent on my body weight. So I'm getting like a super good core workout and things like that. So depending on how you do it, you can totally get an incredible workout from it without having to go to the gym, without feeling like you're lifting weights. And when I say movement, I like to specify, and I like to say dance and movement. And although they could be considered the same thing, sometimes they refer to them separately. And the reason is because a lot of people that I work with are not yet familiar with concepts of dance. And the idea of dance is terrifying to them. It scares them. They're like, I don't know how to dance. I can't dance. That sounds absolutely terrifying. And they think in order to get into dancing that they have to become the next TikTok superstar. They have to learn all these incredibly hard things. And I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to be that hard. It's actually really, really simple, which is why I like to talk about movement. And when I say movement, for whatever reason, that seems to click with people better. When you're listening to, and I'm doing this very, very slowly as if I'm listening to a slow song, but just moving and not really thinking about it. It's less about dancing and more about just allowing yourself to move through space and see what happens. And that is something that is so great. This is actually a huge epiphany for me too, is that dance didn't have to be perfect. It didn't have to be what I thought it was in my mind. And yes, I grew up in a competitive environment and I was doing, I was dancing competitively. Perhaps that has a little bit to do with it. But I always, even when I was doing really well at competitions, I always had this inherent self-limiting belief that I wasn't good enough. And that was, no matter what anybody else could say, that was for me, that couldn't be swayed. And so that was something for me to work on, where I was my own worst critic. And I know oftentimes so many of us, we are perfectionists. We want to succeed. We have these high expectations and high goals for ourselves. And it's very easy for us to be disappointed in ourselves. And that disappointment allows us to kind of get in this space where we're being harsher on ourselves than we are hype men and women. And so I think it's important to really realize where you're at in your journey with whatever it is, whether it's movement, whether it's, getting fit, whether it's your diet and, or it's, at your job, just kind of recognizing where you're at and really giving yourself props for what you have accomplished. That way you're not just constantly being hard on yourself and beating yourself down. And that's something that I had to really learn. And it took a lot for me to kind of like swallow that and be like, okay, I need to be gentle on myself. I need to be kinder to myself, because I realized too that I was not, for the longest time, I was treating myself like a piece of garbage. Like I was treating myself like I would never say the things that I was thinking to myself about myself to anybody else, because I would be an absolutely horrible person. And so getting out of that space and getting into a space where you're having compassion for yourself, you're having kindness, and you're being appreciative and grateful and thankful for your body and all the incredible things that it can do, and for yourself and all of the amazing things that you have accomplished, and for your soul for being this incredibly like intuitive, enlightened being who has the capacity to think about all these things and to think bigger and to want to grow and to see where you're at and to see how you fit into everything in this universe and know that there's more for you in life.
Absolutely. I want to go back to what you said about the deep-rooted belief that you weren't good enough. My gosh, so many people experience this, myself, whatever it is that we're on the journey of doing. There are some times where that belief comes up, and even you mentioned that it's very hard to shake when it's deeply rooted. It could be something from childhood, like so many things, right? But when you are coming from someone who has to show up and perform and be that perfectionist and keep working on themselves, what was your process in terms of being able to deal with the not being good enough and overcoming that, or potentially learning to move with that?
Mm. So, something that really helped me greatly with that, and I would love to share this with you all and invite you to try it, because dance was a huge teacher in this department for me. Um, and particularly when I started dancing and I started allowing myself to kind of move more freely. I was doing more self work. I was doing more, I started doing more work in my own time and what we call freestyle dance or improv, where you just move. You don't, it's not premeditated. You don't think about what you're going to do. There's no set choreography that you have to remember or anything like that. And it allowed me to really grow and expand. And that in itself gave me some confidence, because every time I would do that, I'd feel something new. I'd find something new. And that was a little win for me. And I'm like, okay, little win. Yeah. And I just kept having little wins, and I could feel myself going up and up and up. And not only was I improving in my dance skills, but I was improving in my ability to trust myself and what I could do,
Mm-hmm.
because I was just continually building and growing.
Yeah.
And I would say that when it came to performances and being on stage and things like that, I do remember a couple times where I had situations where I messed up and it really rocked me. I remember this one time I messed up. I forgot my dance. Actually, this is the first time I think I've ever told this story. Um, so I had a solo. So I was on stage by myself. I forgot my dance. I forgot my entire dance. And it was one of those moments where I just like completely got in my head on stage. And I think I made something up, and I did. I made something up and I kind of did, but in my head, I was like, the whole time while I was finishing the dance with whatever it was I was making up, I was like, you suck. I can't believe you've done this. You're making a fool of yourself. Those are the things I was saying to myself. So I remember
Mm-hmm.
finishing that and getting off stage and running to the bathroom and just crying. And I remember talking to friends after that. My mom, they're like, "What's wrong with you? That was great." And I'm like, "I messed up. I forgot everything." It was this huge moment for me where I really had a meltdown. And that was in my earlier days of performing, but I think there was a real big lesson in that for me, and that, I life goes on and the show must go on. And so although I was being incredibly harsh on myself, I still finished and I still did the rest of I still did what I set out to do. Maybe not the way that I intended to, but I still finished it. And
Mm.
so after processing that situation as much as I could when I was like 10 years old, um, after processing that, I realized going forward that I never wanted that to happen again, because I'd seen other people do that. I'd seen other people come off stage crying, being like, that was awful. And I didn't want to be that person, because I didn't feel like I was the kind to complain or throw fits or anything like that. I didn't want that attention either. And I decided that I didn't want to be that person. And so from then on, everybody knows that saying, the show must go on. I just really decided to get rid of that, put that experience behind me where I was in tears, crying, being so awful to myself, and to just really put one foot in front of the other and to move forward in the best way that I could. And going forward, to continue to just keep putting one foot in front of the other, to just keep going, to just finish, like the show must go on.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I throughout the years, and I've had a lot of experience on stage performing in front of crowds, and I messed up so many times. Honestly, I've probably messed up more times on stage than I have successfully nailed it on stage.
Mm.
And that is something that I'm not afraid to admit. That's just how it is. We're human. I'm human. I make mistakes.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's how you learn and how you go through that. That's the huge learning lesson there. And in dance, what I realized is that you get to shake it off, and the show must go on. And so the more that I practice allowing these little things, I call it like brush the haters off. Brush your haters. So anytime you have a situation where you're doubting yourself and you're getting in your head, brush those haters off. Anytime you have a hiccup, anytime you make a mistake, brush it off, keep moving. Anytime something happens that's out of your control, that throws a wrench in whatever it is that you're trying to do, brush it off, keep moving, like keep going. The
Yeah.
show must go on. And it's that attitude that just not paying attention. Like I feel like when you give that event or that hater, what I'm going to call it, a hater, that event or that hater, that thing, if you give that negative voice in your head at the time of day, you give it the time and space to grow and really sit with you and really just be there and own you and own that moment. And if you just brush it off, don't even look at it, just keep going, because you don't have time for that. And then you keep moving, and then you keep growing, you keep progressing. And I think what you'll find is that the more and more that you do this with your thoughts and with your experiences, the more and more you keep going and putting one foot in front of the next, you'll become a professional. You'll get so good that you'll become a professional at deflecting these things. And I'm not going to say that these thoughts are never going to come up, because they will. They come up for me sometimes. I still have self-doubt and things like that. I can't say that I feel like that'll ever completely go away. It would be awesome if it would, but I feel like human nature, we are inherently designed with a safety feature called fear to keep us safe and to protect us. And that creeps in. It likes to creep in whenever it thinks we might be experiencing something new or something scary, just to, it's a safety mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can't fault ourselves for that. But what we can do is we can say, okay, thank you, fear. Thank you, voice. I see what you're doing here. I know you're trying to keep me safe. I want to thank you for being here. Now you can be on your way, because I've got this. And then you can move forward and you can absolutely crush it.
Jordan, that was incredible in terms of how much went into that story and that part of your life and that experience. So thank you so much for sharing, because
thank you.
we are our own harshest critics, and that voice is always going to be there. But that key message of no matter what happens, the show goes on, life goes on, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
That's the momentum of moving forward in your life and brushing things off, and not wallowing in them for years and times. And we got this life, we got this one life to live, and we have to keep brushing off and moving forward, because there's no point being stuck in whatever has already happened.
Yeah. And I'm also, to be clear, I'm not saying to avoid processing the thought or the feeling or the experience, because I do think it's very important to allow yourself to deal with these things. If you're having something come up for you that comes up often, like you're not good enough for this, or you're not good, really address it, because I do think it's definitely something that you need to give attention to, and that you need to give time and process and really work through. But what I'm saying is that in these moments where it's not productive and you don't have the time to really revisit that, brush it off. Or, one thing I like to do too is, if I have a thought, I like to catch myself in that moment and ask myself, why am I feeling this way? Or why am I having this thought? What is the root of that thought? And is it valid? Is it valid? Is it true? Or can I say, thank you, thought, and you can be on your way now? Because I think there's a lot of that too. It's just kind of checking in with yourself and checking in with your feelings and your thoughts, and being like, but wait a second, do I really have proof that I'm not good enough for this job? Because I'm very qualified, and this is the job that I want. Like, who's to say that I'm any less qualified than anybody else? Like, I've totally got this, so you can kind of debunk your own thoughts right there, which I think is important.
And it's great that you've mentioned that side as well, because there is that side of us where there are people who are quite high achieving or overachieving, and they've got that attitude where they just we'll just keep brushing it off and let's just keep moving forward. But then there's also that other side where if you don't address the void and really reflect on it and process it, then it's always going to keep coming up and repeating. And it's not going to be, I guess, you can't not band-aid it for the rest of your life as well, unless you want to, but that can also blow up in other ways. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've actually been trying to create a practice. I'll call it a ceremony around giving myself a little bit of time and space to process my shit, I'll say.
Okay.
and giving like some designated time, maybe it's like a half an hour on Thursday night or something, where you just really get to sit with yourself, and you get to kind of maybe look at your journal from the week, kind of see where you're at, or maybe it is just you journaling and kind of checking in with yourself and seeing where you're at, what kinds of things came up for you this week, and really working through those, because it's important that they be worked through and that they not just be pushed to the back, like you're saying.
Yeah.
They're coming up for a very valid reason. So giving yourself like a designated time. And honestly, it's kind of fun. I did this recently, and I lit a candle, and I drew a tarot card, and I sat on my bed, and it was like a fun little ceremony for myself. And I felt like, I did a little bit of meditation, I did some writing, I did some thinking, and some like visualizing about, okay, how can I move through this, and like, what am I getting rid of right now?
That's
And
beautiful.
just allowing yourself that time and space,
Yeah.
and creating a ceremony around it, as though, like, it doesn't have to be something that's awful. It can actually be something that's really special, that you get to have this sacred time and space to really see where you're at and feel your feelings, and get rid of what's no longer serving you. And thank yourself for everything you've experienced. Thank you for these experiences, and these experiences that I didn't like. Thank you for your lessons. Thank you so much. And be gone, I release you.
Yeah.
And then what are you welcoming in after that?
I love that.
And
I
there's
love,
another thing that I wanted to touch on
yeah,
too.
go for it.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that I wanted to reiterate
uh
the fact the ceremonies. I love that you've put it
mm,
into a ceremony situation, because it's sometimes, well, however people want to classify it, is just having that space for ourselves is so important in terms of really just sitting back after all the fast pacedness
yeah.
of life and the action and all of that stuff, to really just digest and
hmm
reflect.
yeah, and I think it's a good practice. I'm really trying to ritualize and make many practices in my life more of a ceremony, more of a celebration,
Mm,
because I feel like, even the work that you have to do, even your to-do list, how can you make that a ceremony? How can you make it something sacred and special and fun and enjoyable, and make it, because honestly, our life is very long, but it's made up of a bunch of little moments, and all of our little moments are what makes up our life in its entirety. And it's like, how do you want to be spending all of your moments? Because nothing is promised. The future is
mhm.
not promised. And we would love to, we can visualize and plan for the future, and that's all amazing. And I highly, and I invite everybody to do that. I love doing that too. But tomorrow is not promised to us. So how are you going to get the most out of every moment of every day and everything that you do? Like, create a ceremony around it, create a ritual around it, find ways of making it fun. And I've had a much better time. I've had a much more enjoyable days since I've integrated that practice and really started doing that with more of my everyday work and flow.
Yeah.
And it's just been much more enjoyable. So I
There you go.
invite you all to try.
Invite you all
And
to try the daily rituals. I'm going to just
yes.
stop you there, Jordan, because I feel like there's some important points that I want to get out from here. The art of dance, movement, mindset, self-connection, all of that. Where I see it is where you can connect with yourself on a deeper level is your ability to self-express. And for you, it seems that you can express yourself through movement and dance, and that is one way. What's your view in terms of when people, they want to achieve a deeper connection with themselves, they want to be able to move and feel the space around them, but they really, like you said before, it's quite scary to even just step out of your mind and step out of your body and actually just start to feel. Some people are quite numb, like you just kind of forget that you are this being and this
Yeah.
connected to everything. They start to get self-conscious. So I want to ask you in terms of it takes confidence, it takes guts to be able to express ourselves, whether it's through movement, physical, spiritual, whatever it is, through voice, right? And you're someone that
Mhm.
obviously can do that naturally, like you are doing it at ease because you've put in the work, you've practiced for so long, right? But for someone who is like, Jordan, like I want to, I want to be able to do that. Obviously, I'm not trying to be a pro and all of these things, but I do want a deeper sense of self-connection. But I'm very self-conscious about my body, about the way that people perceive me, like all of that. Any advice or experiences that you can share with how you've been able to, show up unapologetically and, get over the self-consciousness when you're being judged by everyone?
Mm. Well, the interesting thing that I can say about that is that I feel like, although I was in a competitive atmosphere in my younger life, and I am, in a sense, when you're on stage, you are kind of being judged by the people that you're performing for. But I had this huge realization that I was placing, I was my own worst critic, but at the same time, I was also thinking that everybody else around me was judging me and was very, with a magnifying glass, looking at everything I was doing, kind of scrutinizing me. And I just had this realization that it's not like that. It's really not like that, because most people are, and this is what I say to people, like when you're at a club, most people are either too drunk or too busy trying to like get a phone number of the person that they're talking to notice what you're doing. And I think we get really wrapped up in external things and we worry about what other people think of us. And my life changed drastically when I stopped caring what other people thought of me. And that was something that, again, it didn't happen overnight. It was gradual, but I just started realizing that, I like to dress in bright colors. I like to wear fun, crazy clothes. I like to be a weirdo. I like to have a great time. I like to be silly and goofy. And I just sort of started embracing myself more and who I felt like I was in my truest version. And that allowed me to really just to transcend and to love myself more and to not worry. When you care less about what other people think, you're sort of marching to the beat of your own drum. And what that did was it kind of, in a sense, it kind of gave me confidence. Because when I relinquished the thought that everybody else cared what I was doing, and I was like, you know what, they actually really don't care. They're probably not even like watching. When you're on stage is a different story, but in everyday life, most people are not paying attention. And what I have to say about people that are paying attention and people that may see you and may talk shit on you and may look down on you, those are not your people. Pay no mind to those people. They have no place in your life. It is those people that unfortunately are sad and unhappy with themselves, and their way of coping with that is putting other people down. I had a student, I have a modeling student that I've been working with who is actually shut down her social media because she had an experience where her profile was public and she was posting these pictures, and she said to me, I was living my life. I was having fun. I was expressing myself. I was, getting into modeling. And then all of a sudden people started saying the meanest things about the way that I posed and the things that I wore. And I said, well, first off, sister, set your profile to private, because what do you care about these random people that you don't even know that are saying all these mean things to you? And second of all, is this really what they have, what the best use of their time is, to be on social media bad talking somebody else that they don't even know? And so it was this eye-opening experience for her where she's like, yeah, you know what, you're right. And I'm like, yeah, you got to quit caring what other people think, because if you care what other people think, you're living your life for other people. You're not living your life for yourself.
Yeah.
So it's really important to start checking in with yourself. Like, what do I want? What makes me feel good? And start tuning out other people. And I'm not saying do so in a mean way or a rude way or anything like that. But when it comes to walking down the street and maybe there's people, maybe you're walking through a busy, crowded street, quit paying attention so much to like, what are the people who's looking at you, and just kind of really try to be in the present. Try to be with yourself. How are you feeling in that moment? Take a look around, like what's going on. Look at all the like cool scenery of where you're at and be thankful for your moment, and take it, like really bring it back to you. And I think that you'll be able to find more of an appreciation with yourself and your moment. So check in with yourself and try putting yourself first versus other people. And I was going to say something else about discomfort. Anytime we try something new, we experience discomfort. We experience fear. We experience hesitation, because again, our defense mechanism has kicked in. Our safety inherently is like, well, I don't know about that. I don't know if that's a good idea. Are you sure about that? And I'm just here to tell you that you need to get over the fear of being uncomfortable, because you will not progress in anything in life if you are afraid of being uncomfortable. In fact, the more willing you are to be uncomfortable in your life, the more growth that you will have, because it takes putting yourself in situations where you haven't been there before. It takes you applying for that job that, yeah, that seems like it's way up there, but I'm going to go for it because why not? Because life is too short to not put yourself out there and to not try these things. And I'm going to ask everybody listening, at the end of your days, I know everybody wants to dance, right? Everybody wants to dance. There is not a single person in this world that seriously is like, no, I have no desire to dance. Even if it's just like a little at the club with your friends, whatever. Everybody wants to dance. Everybody wants to feel comfortable in their body and to be able to move their body. And I'm going to ask you, at the end of your days, if you never allowed yourself to go to the space of feeling uncomfortable enough to try to move your body even just a little bit and dance just a little bit, are you going to be happy about that decision?
Yeah,
or
powerful.
are you going to be at the end of your days like, heck yes, I did all these things, I lived life on the edge, I tried all of these new things, and I had this crazy, I had all of these crazy amazing experiences because I was willing to put myself out there and try these new things. And guess what? I danced. I had fun. I had so many fun nights of dancing because I actually tried. And so I want to remind you of that, because I like to think about this often as well. It's when I'm looking back at my life, what will I be proud of and what will I regret? Because life is too short for regrets, my friends. Ain't nobody got time for that. So you make sure that whatever you want to get out of this life, you're going to make that happen. And it may be uncomfortable, it may be scary, but you're going to make it happen. And all you need to do is set your mind on it and be willing to step outside of your box, that little comfort zone. And that's where the magic happens. It really is.
That's so beautiful. I think you touched on so many points there that a lot of people can relate with, and I'm sure people can get a lot of wisdom out of that, particularly about the discomfort, because we experience that every day. But then the point that you're making is also that everything is an experience within itself, whether you think it's good or bad. Basically, it's an experience, and if you learn something from it and you give it a go, well, pat yourself on the back and well done. Keep moving forward.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to look stupid. Don't be afraid to, when you're starting out, when you're starting to dance, of course, you may not look as good as you want to look, but who cares? You're not dancing for anybody else. You're dancing for yourself. So if you want to learn how to dance, you want to learn a deeper connection to your body, move in your bedroom. Don't do it in front of a mirror, because then you're judging yourself in front of a mirror. Just put on music and move to it. But what you can't be afraid of is failing. Because even failure, by whatever we're calling a failure, is not bad. It's good. It's actually a learning experience, and it's an opportunity for us to say, oh, this is how this ended up, this is how this happened, this is how I feel, how am I going to move forward? So it's actually a real blessing. It's an opportunity for growth.
Yeah, and I want to reframe that and just throw it out there that failure is, the way I see it is the meaning you give to it, and for me, it's feedback. So literally,
Yes,
that's all
feedback.
it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
love that.
Jordan, I want to touch on something that I find is very interesting, which is you mentioned earlier that you like to, perform, and with performances comes into having a character, getting on stage, being something else, wearing a costume, like, putting on something else that maybe isn't you, but you will still be expressing yourself through movement. But I'm really curious about character, because we play a lot of different characters within our lives: mom, dad, brother, sister, friends, like all of that. For you, what is the experience like, in terms of getting into different characters, and how do you not lose yourself in it, in a sense? So there's two ways. One is that you get into character and you really become that person, and like you embody that, which is what, some people who are maybe a little bit lost, when they can step into a character, can be very positive. So I want to hear about that. But the other side is also that when, like I hear a lot of actors, actresses out there where they get into a lot of characters, but then they may actually lose themselves within the character as well, and then not know who they are. So I want to ask for your insights onto, how that experience is for you.
That's a great question. Great question. So as far as characters go, I have always believed that we are multifaceted beings. We are not one person. We are many different characters. And whether you are familiar with your characters or not, they're always growing, they're always developing. You may gain a few, throughout the years. But we have more sides than one. So I've always felt very restricted by just being in this one space. And when I say facets, I have many. I have many different character clowns. I have a hype woman at my Movementality. I have an experienced coach and mentor where I'm really working with people as a teacher and instructing them and helping them to change their lives. There are all of these facets and characters, but I do encourage people to explore your facets and explore these sides of yourself and really lean into them, because there's a lot to learn from these sides of yourself. There's a lot to learn from that extroverted side of you that only comes out every once in a while. There's a lot to learn from that introverted side of you that, is really creative. There's a lot to learn from you on that, or a lot to learn from yourself in that person that comes out in you when you're at a drunk at a wedding and dancing. There's something to be learned from that. And those are all of these characters. They're not estranged from you. They are you. They're just facets of your being. And so I think that you always get to come back to yourself. And I believe very much that as long as you're checking in with yourself, and as long as you're really just being present with yourself and being mindful, that you can always bring it back to yourself. I don't ever fear that you would get lost in that process. I know there's some situations with maybe some actors that have gone down that, but I feel like we're strong people, and we are just growing this huge the soul that we have. We're just really growing and expanding as we are. And so I also feel like with method acting and things like that kind of goes down a little bit of a different way. But for me, like, for example, when I'm doing some of these over the top characters, like if you look on my social media, I have Starlet Jordanson, who's this 80s bombshell heartthrob who's all about doing, booty boot camp and things like that. I have oh my gosh, Lucille Sparks, who's this like soul sister, you know, from the 70s, that's like all kinds of funky and everything like that. I have Dirk Davey, who is a rock and roll loving, you know, cut off jean boot wearing individual who's all about like having fun. And so it's cool to explore those. And I invite you guys to play around with these different characters. So one exercise that I like to do with my clients is we'll put on a song and I'll say, okay, do this like a cowboy. Pretend you're a cowboy. How would you dance this like a cowboy? And I'll say, okay, do it like you're a gangster. How would you dance it like you're a gangster? Okay, now do it like you're the Queen of England. How would the Queen of England do this? You know, and you get to kind of like try on these hats, which is fun because it helps you grow and expand not only your movement, but you're kind of tapping into, again, that playful side of you that we know we need to remain connected to and we need to reconnect with. And it allows you to when you do come back to yourself, you've come back to you with some newness. You've come back with some new found understanding. And by being able to like do these characters and explore these characters, I feel like it makes you stronger because your sense of self-worth, because you can play all of these different people, you really, you know who you are, you know, because
and you
can
really
always
get to expand yourself into these different areas maybe you've not explored before as well.
Yes.
But I'm really curious,
Yeah.
one thing about where people can get a bit caught up as well, you being like professional dancer, performer and all that, do you ever get attached to the identity of being like that way or being in those roles where you can then don't know who you are because you are the performer, you are the dancer? A lot of people I know get, and even myself, have gotten caught up with our identities attached to our work, our relationship. I am the wife, I am the, you know, the daughter and all of these things. Have you ever experienced that for yourself where like, you know, you get a bit like, who am I without being the performer? Who am I without being the professional dancer and all of that?
I wouldn't say I've necessarily thought of it like that. I have felt, well, I guess I have, yeah. At a certain point in my life, it was probably right after I moved out to Los Angeles. I went through a phase where I was the first time being on my own. I only child, first time living on my own. And, you know, I was like, I went from being, you know, having a very different life in the Midwest to being in Los Angeles on my own. And I did a lot of partying and I did a lot of like, you know, that was a place when I kind of lost sight of myself. And at that point, I felt like I kind of have had a check in with myself and I just hit a really low point. And I realized, who am I? What am I? And so it was a bit of like, well, who am I without these things in my life that I'm doing, that I identify with, but also like, why the hell am I not doing them? You know, why am I not pursuing these things? Like what's wrong with me? You know? But what I will say is that I know my worth and I've done a lot of work to get here, and doing the work to really know yourself and be confident in yourself is so important, and it allows you to trust yourself and to just really believe in yourself regardless of what it is that you're doing, because what it is that you're doing is an extension of who you are. And I realize that the dance performances that I'm doing and the choreography that I'm setting and the you know, commercials and films that I'm acting in, those are all an extension of me, and that is me getting to express myself. And I feel like I'm at a point where I get to make a difference. I get to impact people. I get to touch people's lives. I get to help them. I get to help inspire them. I get to help them register the fact that they can do these things too, or that they want to do this, and just kind of shine a light on that. And I feel like now it's a blessing to me. It's a gift. It's an opportunity to be able to express myself with people, and through that show them that there is the capacity for them to to love themselves and to do cool things with their lives and to do all of the things that they want to do with their lives.
Absolutely. This has been such a great conversation so far. We are getting towards the end now. So I want to ask you, Jordan, what are you working on these days?
Ooh, I'm working on so many things these days. I've got some films coming up and some commercials, so stay tuned for those. You guys can follow me on social media. My personal is at Jordan, Jordan, period, last name Wentz, Wentz. And my company, where I am the professional hype woman and I do all of these amazing events and things and all of this, I'm posting constantly all of this free content, is My Move Mentality. So that's all three words, My Move Mentality, all squished together. You can find me there across all platforms. And actually, coming up very soon, I am hosting a summit that is going to be really powerful and impactful. It is called the Body Love Initiation Summit. And I have a bunch of friends and peers, industry professionals who are sharing their top secrets and stories and lessons so that people like you can finally really love yourself, that you can have the passionate relationship that you crave, and that you can feel confident, vibrant, and beautiful inside and out. So that's going to be a super juicy, really, really valuable summit. So you should definitely keep your eyes out for that. I am also working on my upcoming program, which I will be launching in January. It is a 12-week program. It is a journey to self-love, to empowerment. You'll learn how to dance from start to finish. You're going to get some really amazing bonuses, and it's going to be an incredible opportunity. Stay tuned for details on that, because I will be announcing more closer to January, but that will be happening. And I'm really excited for this container because I'm walking you through essentially holding your hand every step of the way and working with you throughout the 12 weeks so that you can fully ditch your self-limiting beliefs, so that you can love yourself, so that you can start really embodying your life. And we're using movement and mindset as the catalyst for that. And as a sweet bonus, by the end of it, not only are you going to be a dancing superstar, but you'll actually have a concept music video that you're the star of. So really, really exciting.
Very fun.
Really, really exciting.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for all of that.
Cool. Well, we'll definitely drop all the links in the show notes if anyone wants to connect out with you and go to these events and get all these awesome resources. They'll definitely know where to find you. Lastly, I want to ask you a couple of questions, because we are on the Journey to Fulfillment podcast and you've accomplished so much in your life so far to the woman you are today. What is fulfillment to you, or what does it mean to you at the moment?
What is fulfillment to me? Fulfillment is having no regrets. Fulfillment is saying hell yeah to every single dream that you have, and to telling yourself that anything is possible, because it is, and you can do it. You can totally do it.
If Jordan can do it, you can do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Lastly, fast forward many, many years down the track, you've accomplished all the things that you wanted to do. You are the woman that embodies, connection, self-expression. You've done everything. You've impacted millions and millions of lives out there, and becomes your last day on earth. What would be the message that you would want to leave us with or send to the universe?
Oof, these are such good questions. The message that I would want to leave or send to earth. It's funny, the thing that comes to mind is this thing that I say often, and I think it's part of my hype woman, and it's let's go. And it's such a simple little 2 words, but for me it's very powerful, and it's so packed with meaning. Let's go means let's get up out of your seat. Let's believe in yourself. Let's make it happen. Let's take action. Let's do the thing. Let's believe in ourselves. Let's go for it. Let's do this. And so I feel like let's go would be what I would say, with lots of enthusiasm. Let's go.
Yeah, let's
Like
go.
that.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all your wisdom and insights and your time, Jordan. It's been such a pleasure. We had so much fun speaking with you.
Thank you so much, Pauline. This has been favorite podcast interview. So wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.